Alright, so here's an update on the Impale side graft. The two aerial carpets that I grafted in the video did not make it, but these were grafted around the same time, so it's been a little over 2 months, and we're in winter now, but it feels like spring, so I'm just going to show how they're doing. So the taproot on this one looks like it rotted, but since it's grafted. Now, looking at the side, it wasn't grafted. I didn't leave the taproot on this one, so this one doesn't matter much. Here's the original. It's drying out since the stock has no roots on it. The taproot is still intact. There is new growth. Pretty dismal. I'll probably try repotting these into a more organic soil mix. But regardless, I do like the very natural minimal growth. It's not very swollen. This one, however, is quite swollen. Let's see if the taproot remains on this one. Okay, this one's pretty well rooted. So the stock rooted very well. Hopefully it doesn't break the root, break up a little bit. So here, taproot looks like, oh, I didn't leave this taproot either. Or did I leave the taproot? But there is a small amount of root on the stalk. But looking at the graft, at least looking at it now, I didn't leave the taproot, and if I did, this is not growing as originally intended. Let's check this one out. Here, this one has the correct, this one actually worked out. The growth is very, very minimal, but it is accelerated. These seeds were sown December 27th from seeds that Sally from Share the Seeds gave me. This one is growing as intended. The taproot has grown, and the stalk is pushing up new growth. Since this has been in full sun this entire time, and at least in my condition, since I do not fertilize very heavily. This is great growth in my opinion. You can see the side graft, the root, the impale. Let me try taking this out. In this one, you can clearly see that it was impaled. Yeah, very nice taproot. So I'm going to give a little explanation on why this works out. So when we graft, the nutrients will obviously come from the root, but the root also gets nutrients back from this photosynthesis in the leaves. The green produces nutrients and carbohydrates, and it feeds back into the roots, and then the roots feed back into new growth. So in this instance, the idea, it's not perfect, but the idea is you can see it was a side impale. I used a V cut here. But so the photosynthesis from this and the lophophora head goes back to the stock root, but also the taproot, which is why this taproot is quite impressive. So this is 6 months old, and it gets watered like my other grafts. I mean, pretty much everything gets watered at least once a week. But yeah, this is 6 months. For me, this is about as large, if not larger, than some of my yearlings. And I consider this one a great success for me. Let's see if there's other successful grafts. So you can also see the size of the stalk. I used a very small stalk. If you do this, do not remove all the spines, since it'll dry out the stalk before there's actually any growth. I know everyone likes to remove pups, but if you don't let it grow enough, it'll actually go against you. So let's check out these other two grafts. This one also has a massive taproot. But this one is pretty small for 6 months. You can see it's pretty wet, the stalk root. And another thing, this stalk could obviously handle being submerged in water completely, and there is almost no nutrients. This one also did well. There is almost no nutrients in this medium here, but the cactus has adapted. It's much slower growth, but it continues to grow even in pure mineral soil. If I added more organic in here, it would grow better. The stalks would be larger. But with the side impale, this is fairly natural growth. This is a small, very small growth, but you can see there is an increase in the growth rate from the graft. It was impaled similar to the other one. It's hard to capture it from here, but you can see the impale. near the base. This one is a perfect example. You can see the original cut on the body. This one wasn't impaled, this one was a side graft, but it still did work relatively well. Despite not having great crown growth, the taproot does look quite well. So in the other videos you can see where I regrafted into 100% mineral mix. Most of the taproots were not even close to this, and they were repotted at 9 months, I believe, and this is at 6 months old. So if you consider doing this, use older seedlings so that you have more control on how you're able to cut and leave the taproot intact, and also use larger rootstock so that you have faster growth rate in general. I did these grafts after quite a few years of not grafting or anything, and I intend to start grafting more since I have some ideas in the coming weeks. So yeah, this is just an update. Someone asked again how if there's like an improvement over traditional grafting. The only improvement over traditional grafting is that you can leave the taproot intact. In this case it rotted, or I didn't leave it, but it looks like it rotted away. But if you perform this enough and you have enough practice, this will work out well. As you can see here, this is a small amount of grafts since I didn't have much stock in the beginning. So using different stocks, I used to use Trichocereus and it worked relatively well. They were thin stalks, not massive stalks. So yeah, here's the update on after 2 months from the original post. These two have larger growth but no taproot. This one has smaller amount of growth but a larger taproot, and it's more developed in certain own root seedlings. Let's check those out. Here are the yearlings, own root. You can see the difference. Some yearlings are very small, others are larger. Some yearlings are larger, but this is comparable. And this is only 6 months from sowing, and these are a year from sowing. So in my book it's successful. Here's some more yearlings that have struggled a bit. And the taproot on most of these are not as large as this one. This is what I'm looking for when I perform this Impale side graft. So maybe with more practice I'll have a better success rate. This would be most interesting with Aerocarpus and Aztecium if you have the ability and the finger dexterity, which slowly I'm going into the elderly cactus growers, and I leave everything on root since I'm starting to feel the old man arthritis pains, even though I'm still only 31. So yeah, thanks for watching.